Okay, so let me just dive right in. This isn't a cute, he forgot our anniversary story. This is the kind of gut punch that rearranges your DNA. I'm in Ohio, of all places. Suburbia. Married to Mark for 7 years. The kind of marriage that, from the outside, looked like a Pottery Barn catalogue, stable jobs, a dog, weekend trips to Home Depot. We weren't passionate, but I thought we were content. A solid foundation, you know. But foundations can crack without you seeing them. The signs were there, in hindsight, glowing like neon warnings I was too trusting to read. Mark had become indifferent. It wasn't anger, or even annoyance. It was a profound, chilling neutrality. My excitement about a promotion at work. A quiet, "That's nice, babe," his eyes never leaving the game. My bad day, needing a hug. A pat on the shoulder that felt more like he was checking for lint. He was a ghost in our own home, a pleasant, smiling phantom who'd stopped truly seeing me. And then there was Chloe. My best friend since college. The one who was always between things, between jobs, between men, between identities. She'd been around so much, she had a toothbrush here. She'd sigh about her dating disasters over my wine, and I'd feel this tiny, guilty pang of gratitude for my stable, predictable Mark. She was vibrant, a little chaotic, and I loved her. I felt sorry for her empty apartment, her quiet phone. I invited her into our lives, our space, our sanctuary thinking I was throwing her a lifeline. I didn't know I was throwing her a man. The first real sign was the smell. Mark started using a new cologne. Something musky and expensive, not his usual clean, soapy scent. When I mentioned it, he just shrugged. Tried a sample at the mall. Then it was the phone. He'd never been protective of it, leaving it on the coffee table while he showered. Suddenly, it was glued to his hip, face down. If it buzzed, he'd glance at it with this blankness. Not a smile, not a frown. A void. And once, when I walked into the room, he was texting. I saw the quick flick of his thumb to close the app, the flash of a photo, a blow of bare shoulder, maybe, but his face, when he looked up at me, was so utterly calm. So empty. He didn't even bother to look guilty. "What's up?" he asked, his voice a flat line. "Nothing," I said, my own heart beginning a frantic, irregular beat against my ribs. "Just nothing." That was the beginning of the end. I just didn't know it yet. I was still in the house, standing on the cracks, believing it was solid ground. It's funny how the world ends not with a bang, but with a buzz. His phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, lighting up with a preview of a text. He was in the shower. Water running, him obliviously singing some off-key classic rock. The phone was face up. And there it was. Chloe, 9:14 p.m. God, I can still taste you. I'm aching. The words didn't compute at first. They were just shapes on a bright screen in my dim kitchen. Chloe. Taste you. Aching. My brain assembled the letters, but refused to form the meaning. It was like looking at a word you've written too many times, it loses all sense. Then, the water stopped. The silence was deafening. I just stood there, holding onto the edge of the counter, my knuckles white. I heard the shower curtain ring back, the soft thud of his feet on the bath mat. I should have moved. I should have screamed. I did nothing. I was a statue of dread. He walked out, a towel around his waist, hair dripping. He saw me. He saw the phone in my hand, the screen still glowing with that damning sentence. And his face. God, his face. No panic. No shame. Just a slight, weary irritation, like I'd inconvenienced him by catching him. Like I'd interrupted something important. "What are you doing?" he asked, his voice calm. Not angry. Just flat. I couldn't speak. My throat had sealed shut. I just held the phone out, my arm trembling. He took it, glanced at the screen, and swiped the notification away. As if deleting it from view deleted it from existence. "It's not what you think," he said. The oldest, lamest line in the book. And he delivered it like he was reading a grocery list. Not what I think. My voice was a stranger's, a high, thin crack. Chloe is tasting you, Mark. She's aching star. What, exactly, should I be thinking? That you two are sharing a particularly flavorful yogurt. He sighed, a long, exhausted sound. He walked to the fridge, got a water bottle, and took a slow drink. The indifference was a physical force in the room, thicker than the steam from the bathroom. It just happened. It didn't mean anything. With my best friend . She's lonely. You know how she is. She came on to me. It was once. I was weak. He said it all while looking past me, out the kitchen window into the dark yard. He was confessing, but he was miles away. He'd let it happen. That was the phrase that echoed. He let it happen. As if he were a passive object, a leaf blown by the wind of Chloe's loneliness. No agency. No choice. No fight for me, for us. When? The word scraped out of me. A few weeks ago. After that party at Dave's. She was upset, crying. I gave her a ride home. My mind, treacherous, supplied the details. The foreplay I hadn't witnessed, but could now imagine with horrific clarity. I could see it, Chloe in his passenger seat, the seat I'd vacuumed and nagged him about keeping clean. Her turning to him, her hand, with that silver ring she always wore, reaching over to touch his jaw. The smell of her perfume, my perfume recommendation, and his new cologne mixing in the close air of the car. His initial hesitation, then, nothing. That famous indifference giving way to a passive acceptance. Her lips on his, not a passionate clash, but a slow, sure conquest. His hand, the one that wore our wedding band, moving to the back of her neck, not pulling her closer, just resting there. The quiet, humid sounds in the dark car. The console light glowing on their skin. Her breath hitching, his, even and measured. The moment before everything, the held breath, the point of no return, him not leaning in, but not pulling away. He let it happen. I realized I was holding my own breath, my chest burning. I looked at him, this man I'd slept beside for 7 years, and he was a stranger. A beautiful, hollow stranger. The grief hadn't hit yet. There was only this vast, white-hot shock, and beneath it, a freezing cold realization, he didn't love me. He probably hadn't for a long time. And the worst part? He couldn't even muster the energy to hate me, or to truly want her. He was just there. And my best friend had wanted to be there with him. The floor felt unsteady. The world had tipped on its axis, and I was the only one who felt the spin. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. The silence that followed his confession was worse than any explosion. It was the sound of my entire understanding of my life dissolving. I just stared at him, at this curator of my betrayal, and asked the only question that mattered. Why? He finally looked at me, but his eyes were like glass, you could see the surface, but nothing lived behind it. I told you. It didn't mean anything. She was there. It was easy. Easy. The word was a surgical knife, precise and cold. Our marriage, with its shared bills and comfortable silences, was work star. Chloe was easy star. I walked out of the kitchen. Not dramatically, but like a sleepwalker. I went to our bedroom, the scene of our own mundane, diminishing intimacy, and I called her. My best friend. The woman who'd held my hair back when I had food poisoning, who'd cried with me when my dad died. She answered on the second ring, her voice bright, falsely sweet. Hey you. I was just thinking about you. Mark told me, I said, my voice eerily calm. He told me everything. The silence on her end was different from his. It was thick, charged, guilty. Then, a sigh. Not of remorse, but of relief. The relief of someone who's been waiting to be caught. Look, it was a mistake. It was this one, stupid, emotional night. You have to believe me. He loves you star. He was just, comforting me. Comforting you. I repeated it like I was learning a new language. Describe it to me. How did he comfort you, Chloe? I need to know. Don't do this, she whispered, but there was a thread of something else in her voice. A perverse pride. Tell me. And she did. Maybe to hurt me. Maybe to make it real for herself. Her words painted the scene in the car with vicious detail. How she'd leaned over the console, how her tears were salty on her lips when she kissed him. How his hands, those familiar, capable hands, had slid under her shirt, not grasping, but allowing her to press against him. She described the feel of his wedding band, cold against the skin of her back. The way the streetlight cut through the windshield, illuminating the dust motes and the sin. She told me about the sound of his breath, a low sigh near her ear, not a moan of passion, but an exhalation of surrender. She described the frantic, clumsy unbuttoning of his jeans, the heat of him through his boxers, the way she took his passive acceptance as eager consent. She was the artist, and he was the blank, indifferent canvas. I listened, and my body reacted physically. My stomach clenched, a hard, nauseous knot. A metallic taste flooded my mouth. I felt hot and cold simultaneously, sweat beading on my spine while my hands turned to ice. I saw it all, not as a movie, but as a sensation, the oppressive heat of the car, the smell of leather and regret, the crushing weight of his apathy being misinterpreted as passion by my desperate, empty friend. When she finished, there was a hushed pause. It meant nothing, she echoed, parroting his line. You're right, I said, and the truth of it was more devastating than if they'd been in love. It meant nothing. His nothing. And you. You're just a thief who stole a piece of trash from a locked house. I hung up. The grief wasn't a wave yet, it was a vacuum. It sucked all the sound, all the light, all the air out of the room. I was in the eye of the hurricane, in a terrible, silent stillness. The two people I had trusted most had not plotted against me. They hadn't even cared enough for that. They had simply, carelessly, walked through the walls of my life because they were too lazy to go around. The foundation wasn't just cracked. It was sand. And I was starting to sink. For 3 days, I moved through the house like a ghost haunting my own life. Mark had packed a bag that first night. He didn't fight, he didn't plead. His indifference reached its logical conclusion, silent evacuation. I'll stay at the Hyatt, he'd said, as if discussing a business trip. The door clicked shut behind him with a sound of terrifying finality. It wasn't a slam, it was a period at the end of a sentence I didn't know we'd finished writing. The initial shock hardened into a heavy, leaden grief. But it wasn't the dramatic, weeping on the floor kind you see in movies. This was quieter, more pervasive. It was the grief of erasure. I'd look at the coffee maker and remember he took his coffee black, but the memory felt like something I'd read in a book, not lived. I'd see his side of the closet, now half empty, and feel nothing but a dull astonishment that he'd ever been here at all. The emotional impact was less a series of waves and more a change in atmospheric pressure. A permanent, grey ceiling settled over everything. I'd be doing the dishes, feeling the warm water on my hands, and a fragment of Chloe's confession would loop in my mind, the cold of his wedding band on my back. And my fingers would go numb against the plate. I'd try to eat, taste the food, and then remember I can still taste you, and the bite would turn to ash. My body was no longer just mine, it was a museum of their betrayal, every sense a trigger. I was angry, yes, but the anger was directionless. How do you rage against a void? How do you scream at someone who wouldn't even bother to put up soundproofing? My fury would spike, and with no target, it would turn inward, curdling into a profound, shaming loneliness. Was I that easy to leave? Was my love, my partnership, that forgettable? His indifference was the ultimate rejection, because it wasn't even an active no star. It was a non-response. I had been speaking into a dead microphone for years. I stopped crying. The tears felt performative, even alone. This was deeper than tears. This was the feeling of my own history being rewritten, edited down to a footnote in someone else's boring story of passive choices. The 7 years of our marriage, the inside jokes, the shared struggles, the quiet Sundays, they were all retroactively stained. Had any of it been real? Or had I just been furnishing a set for a play he'd never agreed to star in? The world outside kept spinning. The mail came. The dog needed walking. The sky was a brilliant, cheerful blue that felt like a personal insult. I existed in a bubble of slow-motion horror, where the most unexpected event was the sheer, mundane continuity of life. The world didn't end. The clocks kept ticking. And I had to decide if I would, too. This was the heart of the pain, not the sharp cut of discovery, but the endless, aching bleed that came after. The realization that the person you'd built your life upon was not a villain, not a passionate lover stolen away, but a shrug in human form. And your best friend was the echo of that shrug. I wasn't battling for my marriage anymore. I was battling the suffocating truth that there had been less there to fight for than I'd ever dreamed. I didn't confront them together. The thought of being in a room with both of them, feeding off that toxic dynamic, his blankness, her performative guilt, made my skin crawl. Instead, I went to her. Not to our usual wine bar, but to her apartment, the one I'd pitied for its emptiness. Now I saw it for what it was, a hungry space. She opened the door, her face a masterpiece of contrition. Puffy eyes, no makeup, a big, slouchy sweater. She'd prepared for a scene of tears and forgiveness. "Come in," she said, her voice a whisper. I didn't move from the hallway. The smell of her apartment, vanilla candle and unwashed laundry, hit me like a memory from a bad dream. "No. Please, let me explain." "Let me." "There's nothing to explain," I said, and my voice was steady, which seemed to disarm her more than screaming would have. "You were bored. You were empty. You saw something that looked like stability in my life, and you wanted to see if you could crack it, just to feel something. And he was too indifferent to stop you. You didn't seduce a man, Chloe. You took advantage of a sentient piece of furniture." Her face crumpled, but not into true sorrow. Into frustration. Her performance wasn't working. "You think you're so perfect. You think your little domestic bliss was so real." He was lonely star. You were never present for him. And there it was. The script. The justification. She needed a narrative where they were star-crossed, where I was the cold villain. But I knew the truth. His loneliness wasn't for lack of my presence. It was a void inside him he never filled. And she was just a flicker he briefly noticed in the dark. I felt a surreal clarity then. A lifting of that heavy, grey grief. It was replaced by a clean, cold fury. Not at them, but for myself. For the years I'd spent mistaking his passivity for peace, her neediness for loyalty. "Enjoy him," I said, finally. "You can have the blank pages. I wrote a whole story on them, but you seem to prefer the emptiness." I turned and walked away. She called my name once, a sharp, desperate sound, but it meant nothing. It was just noise in the hall. Back in the car, the silence was different. It wasn't oppressive, it was mine. I drove to our, house. I walked through each room, and this time, I didn't see memories. I saw inventory. I saw his things and my things, tangled like weeds. The decision didn't feel dramatic. It felt like the next logical, inevitable step. Like turning a page. I wouldn't work through this. You can't work through a lie when the lie is the entire foundation. You can't rebuild with someone who watches the demolition with mild interest. His infidelity wasn't the wound, it was the symptom. The disease was his profound, unchangeable indifference. And I refused to let it become my climate anymore. I pulled out my laptop at the kitchen counter, the same spot where I'd seen the text that ended everything. I found the website for a recommended divorce attorney in the city and sent a concise, unemotional email requesting a consultation. I texted my sister, not with hysterics, but with facts. "Mark cheated with Chloe. I am filing for divorce. Can I stay with you for a bit next week?" The responses came, the attorney's assistant with an appointment time, my sister with a string of heart emojis, and the guest room is yours. Life, real life, was still happening. It was just going to be a different life than the one I'd planned. I started that night. I got a cardboard box from the garage and began filling it with his things. Not violently, but systematically. The spare charger, the book by his side of the bed, the ugly golf trophy. Each item felt lighter than air, as if it had been weighing me down for years. I wasn't packing with anger or sadness. I was conducting an exorcism. I was clearing the space so I could finally hear my own heart beating again. It was a faint, ragged sound, but it was there. It was mine. And for the first time in a very long time, it was the only sound in the room that mattered. The resolution wasn't a single, thunderous moment. It was a series of small, deliberate actions that felt revolutionary in their quietness. Meeting with the divorce attorney was one. Sitting in her sleek, quiet office, surrounded by shelves of legal texts, I stated the facts: infidelity. Indifference. No children. I want the house. My voice didn't shake. It was strange to speak the ruin of your life with such calm precision. The attorney, a woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense bob, nodded. We can make this clean, she said. And I believed her. Mark was served papers at his hotel. His response, relayed through his own lawyer, was amicable. Of course it was. Fighting would have required energy, passion, a stake in the outcome. He didn't have any. He agreed to my terms with the same detached compliance with which he'd agreed to Chloe. The ultimate insult was his utter lack of resistance. He was giving me the house, the life, because it was easier than objecting. I moved my sister in for a few weeks. We didn't talk about it endlessly. We ordered takeout, watched terrible reality TV, and she held my hand when I woke up from nightmares I couldn't remember. She helped me pack the rest of his belongings into sterile, labeled boxes for his lawyer to collect. We donated his clothes. When we took the wedding photo off the mantle, I didn't look at it. I just placed it face down in a box marked Misk. The glass was cool and smooth under my fingers. That was all. The house began to change. It started to breathe. I painted the bedroom a soft, sea green color he would have hated. I got rid of the ugly leather recliner he loved. I let the dog sleep on the bed. Slowly, the space stopped being a monument to a failed marriage and started becoming a shell I could possibly, one day, fill with a life that was truly mine. I saw Chloe once, at the grocery store. She was in the produce section, looking frail and dramatic, hovering by the organic kale. Our eyes met. A jolt went through me, but it wasn't pain. It was a profound, distancing pity. She took a step toward me, her mouth opening to form some new, fragile apology. I simply turned my cart, a cart containing my coffee, my favorite yogurt, my citrus-scented cleaner, and walked down the international foods aisle. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The click of my heels on the linoleum was the only sound, and it was enough. She was already a ghost in my rearview. The decision was made, and the resolution was in the daily living with it. Some days, the grief would still ambush me, in the scent of rain on pavement that reminded me of our first date, or in the hollow quiet of a Tuesday evening. But it was no longer a climate. It was weather. And weather passes. I learned to sit with the quiet, not as an absence of him, but as a presence of myself. I'd make a cup of tea and stand in my repainted living room, listening to the furnace kick on, feeling the peace of a space that held no lies. The sharp, specific agony of their betrayal began to blur at the edges, softening into a general lesson about the cost of mistaking comfort for connection, and passivity for peace. The divorce proceedings were a dry, bureaucratic unraveling of a knot that had already come loose. My lawyer was a warrior in a suit. Mark's lawyer communicated in brief, courteous emails. There was no drama, because there had never been any real fire to begin with. Just embers of habit I'd mistaken for warmth, and a draft from an open window I hadn't noticed. I was closing the window now. The air was getting clearer. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday. It came through as a PDF attachment, the official stamp a digital whisper ending a 7-year chapter. I thought I'd feel something seismic. Instead, I felt a slight, physical unclenching, like a muscle I'd been flexing for months finally going slack. I made a cup of tea, sat at my kitchen table, my table, and just stared out at the backyard. The dog sighed at my feet. It was over. But the body remembers what the mind wants to forget. In the quiet of true solitude, memories would surface, not of the betrayal, but of the before. The good before. The tactile, sensory memories of early love with Mark, now poisoned by hindsight, but still physically vivid. I'd be folding laundry, and suddenly recall the specific foreplay of our first time in this very house. It was summer, and the air was thick with heat. We were painting the living room, splattered in eggshell white. He'd touched my cheek, his thumb wiping a dab of paint away, but he didn't remove his hand. His fingers traced down my jaw, to my neck, leaving a trail of fire on my paint-speckled skin. He'd leaned in, but didn't kiss me, just breathed me in, his nose brushing my temple. My breath hitched, the air turning syrupy and charged. I could feel the damp cotton of his t-shirt under my palms, the solid wall of his chest. His other hand slid around my back, under my shirt, splaying against my spine. His touch was warm, deliberate, claiming. He'd kissed me then, a deep, tasting kiss that felt like a promise. I remember the sensation of my back against the newly dry wall, the slight chill of the paint through my shirt, the overwhelming heat of his body aligning with mine. The world narrowed to the points of contact, his lips, his hands, the press of his hips. I'd held my breath, lost in the potent illusion of being *wanted *seen *chosen star. The memory was a perfect, crystalline bubble of sensation. And now, knowing what came after, it felt like a beautiful lie my own nerves had told me. I let the memory play out. I didn't push it away. I observed it like a scientist, this artifact of a dead civilization. I told myself, you are capable of remembering passion. That feeling was real in you. His inability to sustain it is not a referendum on your worth. The grief that followed this time was cleaner. It was for the woman I was then, who believed in the permanence of that touch. I began to rebuild, not by seeking something new, but by reclaiming the old, true parts of myself that I'd folded up to fit his indifference. I signed up for a pottery class I'd always talked about. I reconnected with friends who didn't know Chloe or Mark, friends who asked me questions about my dreams, not our coupledom. I went on a date, and when the nice enough man kissed me goodnight, I felt nothing. But the nothing was different from Mark's. This was a neutral nothing, not this one nothing. It was active, not passive. I had chosen to feel it, and I could choose to walk away. The power was in the choosing. The house was fully mine now. Every cushion, every scent, every piece of art was a deliberate choice. It was no longer a set, it was a sanctuary. Some nights, the loneliness was a physical weight. But it was my loneliness, honest and unshared, and there was a dignity in that. It was better than the lie of company. I learned that the opposite of love isn't hate. With Mark, I learned it's apathy. Hate has heat, has energy. Apathy is a void that swallows your light without a sound. And I learned that some people, like Chloe, are emotional vampires. They don't want your life, they want the warmth of it, and they'll bleed your relationships dry to feel a moment's heat. But the most important lesson was about myself. I learned I had confused stability for surrender. I had handed over the pen to my own life story, grateful someone else was willing to write it, even if he wrote in bland, indifferent prose. The infidelity wasn't the tragedy was how long I'd been asleep in my own life. The betrayal was just the alarm clock that finally, violently, shook me awake. So here I am. In my own home. With my own heartbeat. The future isn't a bold, bright line. It's a soft, open space. And for now, that is enough. So here we are. At the end. Or really, at a beginning that looks nothing like I thought it would. The papers are filed. The house is quiet in a way that no longer echoes. It's been a year. People ask me, are you over it? That's not the right question. You don't get over a fundamental rewriting of your reality. You integrate it. You learn to carry the truth of it, not like a burden, but like a compass. It points you away from hollow things. I saw Mark one last time, for the final asset division. Sitting across a conference table, he was the same. Pleasant. Neutral. He asked about the dog. He signed where his lawyer pointed. When we stood to leave, he offered a hand to shake. I looked at it, the hand that had touched her, the hand that had held me with such passive weight, and I didn't take it. I just nodded. A tiny, quiet rebellion. His hand fell back to his side, and a flicker of something, not hurt, maybe mild surprise, crossed his face. It was the most emotion I'd seen from him in years. My refusal to perform the civility he took for granted was the first stone I'd ever thrown into the still pond of his apathy. The ripples were mine to walk away from. Chloe, I heard, moved to another city. A fresh start, I'm sure. A new set of friends to borrow warmth from. I hope she finds what she's looking for. Truly. But her story is no longer a subplot in mine. My life now is smaller, but denser. It's real. I take my pottery class every Wednesday. My hands are often stained with clay, and I'm terrible at it, but I love the feel of the wheel spinning, a shape emerging from a formless lump entirely under my own pressure. I bought a ridiculous, expensive candle that smells of rain and nothing else. I blast music he hated and dance in my socks in the living room. The advice I'd give to anyone in the ruins of a betrayal like this isn't about sleuthing or grand confrontations. It's quieter than that. 1. Listen to the indifference. Anger, hate, even passionate cheating, they are fireworks. They are loud and they burn, but they mean someone is feeling star. Indifference is the silent killer. It's the absence of investment. If your partner looks at you and their eyes are just windows to an empty room, believe what you see. No amount of your love can furnish that space for them. 2. Your body knows the truth first. That knot in your stomach, the unexplained dread, the feeling that you're speaking into a void, those are not insecurities. They are your deepest instincts sounding the alarm. Trust your gut long before you trust his excuses. 3. Betrayal is a theft of your narrative. They steal your past by making it a lie, and they hijack your present with their drama. The only way to take it back is to write the next sentence yourself. However small. Paint a wall. Get a new haircut. Say no to a handshake. Reclaim your pen. 4. There is a dignity in solitude that far surpasses the humiliation of false company. Being alone in your truth is a sacred space. It's where you finally get to hear your own voice again. My story isn't a triumph of look at me now, thriving and better than ever. It's simpler. It's about waking up. The infidelity was the sledgehammer to the wall I didn't know was a cage. On the other side wasn't instant happiness, but open air. And open air, even when it's cold, is real. So I sit here now, in my sea green bedroom, in a house that holds only my choices. The silence is not his absence. It is my presence. And that, after everything, is the most unexpected and beautiful event of all.